Hey guys, Lizardlea here for Christmas Minis 2022. Christmas Cactus! I don't know what else to call it, but it's perfect. This way. There we go, it's that guy right in the middle. How cute is that? It's got little Christmas lights on it. I like it. I don't really have anything to talk about. I'm very excited to continue reading the Codex Alera series by Jim Butcher, so.
Alright! So last episode was Eden Zero, and now it's Hellraiser 2022!
Yes.
Yeah! You know, not a complete 180, but it's a drastic difference.
They're inappropriate. Anyways,
What?
both are inappropriate.
Yeah, for different reasons.
Yeah. So in the off chance we did discuss this before, sorry you're hearing us again. So,
Yeah, I literally can't remember if we've
I'm
talked about
supposed
it
to
before
track
or
this
not.
stuff. I feel like I do a good job, but I don't trust myself. So,
I don't trust me.
she doesn't trust me either. So,
But I will say, just to begin, as the resident horror fan, I actually like this more than the original. But, with having said that, I haven't seen the original in like 15 years. So it's based off of my memory of the original Hellraiser that I say I prefer this one.
and I think to make this conversation easy, we're just going to start out full spoilering it, because like either you like stuff like Hellraiser or you do not. So, if you like Hellraiser 1 or 2, then you should probably see this movie. If you don't.
Don't, yeah, absolutely don't.
Yeah, you know.
Like, especially because, I mean, I feel like there are parts of this that are more graphic than the original and parts that are less graphic than the original. I feel like it's kind of a wash.
We had a long talk about this where I feel like the original in some ways is much more uncomfortable to watch from what little I've seen. The way that they torture/kill people is, I feel, somehow, it's sort of like conveying claustrophobia in films. You can have two scenes where a character is feeling claustrophobic, but making the audience member also feel uncomfortable is the better scene. And I feel like Hellraiser 1 and 2 do that better than this one did.
My main thing is the end of this one. When, full spoilers,
Yeah.
when he is essentially being turned into a Cenobite, I don't know if flaying is the correct
that's
term.
the term.
Yeah, that makes me uncomfortable. So you were sitting right next to me. I did a full body shake and like,
Yeah.
it got me. But that was the only part. The guy having his nerves moved throughout
I
that
thought
machine
that was the best one.
made me a little uncomfortable,
Yeah.
but the flaying was what really got me.
See, that one to me, just the way they did it, it felt...
Did it just feel gratuitous to you?
No, it felt CGI. Like movie special effects. It didn't feel like how it would actually be. Like, given the... Again, like, we're talking about horrible stuff here, so feel free to mute us. But
It's a cactus, you know?
Yeah. Given that the first two, again, from what little I've seen of them, did a very good job of conveying the horror of what's going on and making it seem believable, and that sometimes includes the difficulty with which some of these things would happen. Like, oh god. So, what's the Misery, where she hobbles him?
Oh, that's
a famous scene.
Oh my god.
And it's brutal because it feels so realistic. There's sort of a wind-up to it all, and the tension, and like the difficulty she has to kind of go through of getting that board in there, and then getting the hammer.
She had a real sledgehammer.
Yeah.
That's why it looked like it was so heavy, because it was.
And
she hit a fake foot.
Those little details really help sell the uncomfortableness, whereas the ending scene is so inhuman anyways, because this guy's now inside the...
It honestly looks like he's in heaven. It's just a bright white light.
But he's supposed to be inside Leviathan, I think.
Oh,
but either way, the point is that the way that the... God, I can't believe I'm going to say this on your channel, no less. But the way that they flay him, it doesn't seem realistic. Like, it just comes off because that's what the animators said. Like, that's how I mentally...
Because that's what the Leviathan wants.
Right, but at the same time, it didn't strike me as that would be painful because it didn't seem real. Like, that's not how flaying... Like, I've seen flaying in other movies, and I'm like, oh god, that's horrible, or shows or whatnot, whereas this was just like, this is a movie special effect. Or a scene. Like, it didn't convey the same horror.
I forgot. Another scene... It didn't creep me out, but I did really like it, was the girl pinhead, when she pulled that pin out, and they had that girl chained up, and she stuck it
in her neck.
and so her screams sounded different because of it.
Because it's blocking her vocal.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
Yeah, and ignoring all the horribleness of this, which is, like, granted, the point of these movies to some extent. The plot itself was not bad. There's some really interesting stuff, like the house just artistically is really cool.
Oh, yeah.
The way that they sell the villain and, like, why he's doing what he's doing with the lament configuration and all that. Not lament, the
final
liminal configuration. That's what he had.
Yeah, the original one he got was feeling.
Liminal.
And then he wanted power.
And which was Leviathan.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was very, very well done. I feel a little bit weird in that, given, again, the original Hellraiser, I think one of the best scenes I've ever seen, even though I've never seen the whole movie.
We need to watch Hellraiser now.
I know. Every time I say this, is the reveal of Leviathan in Hellraiser 2. Like, something about that is so alien and terrifying. Just the scenery. It's got that MC Escher vibe with the labyrinth there, and it's this just horrible thing that, like, you can't understand, but you know it's malevolent.
Yeah.
That's really brilliant storytelling from just a simple shot. And they kind of weaken Leviathan's impact, and by extension the Cenobites, when essentially the guy who built this house has this big cage around it, and he just slams the door on them with the cage, and they can't get in. And at first I thought that was like, okay, so either A, the Cenobites don't mind, they could get through if they wanted to, and we're going to see that eventually. Like, I thought the whole point of this was to set up a sort of power spike of, like, you ignorant little human speck, like, you thought you could stop us, we just let you, because...
That actually would have been really interesting, because it would heighten the fear of, like,
yes.
Oh yeah, we're finally safe, we can calm down, and oh my god, they're in here!
Yeah. Well, I thought at first they were going to stay outside just because they chose to, and then at one point, he slams the door on Leviathan itself, and I was like, oh, this is where it's going to go bad. This is where he's going to find out he's meddling with things he doesn't know. And no, not really.
Well, it wasn't... He put the ceiling up.
He locks it out for a bit.
Yeah, that's the thing. He locks him out.
And that was like... I was like, okay, and this is where Leviathan shows him that he is not. And no, didn't matter. Eventually someone else opens the door for plot reasons, and then horrible things happen to everybody. But it's only for plot reasons. As far as I can tell, they were actually stopped. Now, who knows if that's the case, but I was really hoping for a scene where they showed, like, oh, you thought any of this would stop us? Like, you... We
were just playing with you.
You're like, you just served up her...
That would have been really good.
And there's sort of an interesting morality to it in that I don't know what the deal with the original Cenobites is. Heck, I don't think the writers know what the deal with the original Cenobites is in some ways. But these ones almost feel like they're the genie in the lamp, but as a sort of honeypot or trap, like for people who are greedy, because the whole point is that in order to get your wish from Leviathan, you have to basically sacrifice people who are, you know, and so you get your wish, and all the wishes are cursed, basically, you know, in one way or another. They're horrifying, but the lament configuration is you lamenting your choices, and they just leave you alone. You get no wish. You get
no one back.
Yeah, because, like, there's one about resurrection, and it's like, ooh, what does that do?
You could bring your brother back.
Was it Lazarus?
Yeah.
And I did think they did a really good job finding a lot of L words that easily associate with what the prize was. That was excellent work by them.
That was really good.
Someone did a good job with their dictionary. But on the one hand, you're like, oh, I want to see how they monkey's paw this. That's what it is. They're all monkey paw wishes. But, of course, the main character comes to the conclusion that she can't get her brother back even though she accidentally killed him, and she has to live with it, and that's the whole point of the lament configuration. It's actually a fairly good moral in, of all things, Hellraiser, which, you know, of all the gore show-off movies, it's clearly one of the most well-known for being that.
Absolutely.
But it actually did have a good narrative throughout it. Like, it's actually a good telling story.
Well, yeah, because it's like, do you want to live with being in constant pain by having your nerves wired throughout you? Or do you want to live with the constant pain of knowing you killed your brother to these
and a bunch
things,
of other people.
And a bunch of your friends, or his friends, whatever, and chose not to do the resurrection and bring them back?
Yeah.
Like, they're both really sad.
And I will say, as always with the world building, this opened a lot of interesting questions, like what do the other configurations do? How do they monkey paw those? At one time, someone sacrificed a Cenobite as one of the sacrifices, and they were okay with that. Like,
I loved that.
How does that work? Like, Leviathan was much more actively involved. It literally came into the earth and, like, dropped a hook through the guy's chest at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I wouldn't mind seeing a sequel from this.
Oh, I want one.
I'd watch it. I would say I would enjoy one. Because, again, with the caveat that, of course, all sequels can be poorly written, but I think they've established a lot of interesting stuff they can play with here. Whether or not they can deliver on that, who knows, but I would like to see it delivered upon at least, because I was like, yeah, there were some really clever concepts, and as far as what this movie is trying to be, it mostly nailed it. Oh, the car scene where the labyrinth comes in the car, like, that was a really good scene.
That was really good.
There's a character in the back of the car, and they're driving away, but this character has now been basically cursed to, like, wind up in the labyrinth.
She's been cut by
the puzzle box.
By the puzzle box, yeah.
And so now she has to go be sacrificed in the labyrinth, and you're like, well, she's in a car. Like, we've seen it pop out of walls and whatnot, or just, like, where doors weren't and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But she just starts slowly, like, seeing the front of the car get farther and farther away from her, and instead of the side of the van, suddenly it starts becoming walls, and you can see them at the end of this incredibly long hallway, and it's a really, really cool shot.
Yeah.
That was, and honestly, that's probably the scariest shot of the film. In many ways, like, I don't know, just of all the
well, yeah, you feel like you're with your friends,
yeah.
but you're miles away,
and they don't notice.
And they
can't get to
exactly.
you.
They do not notice. Like, ooh.
Yeah, and it's just it's such a good use of that. I don't know, like that single moment is scarier than all the horrible stuff happening to them by far, because it's just like, ooh, that's
Yeah, that would absolutely terrify me. Like, what were we just watching? Dark City. There's a scene where essentially the rest of the world has frozen, and he's...
fine, whatever. I was gonna say, like, it's a spoiler for a great movie, but who cares? People haven't watched.
We're gonna
Dark
talk about it eventually.
Yeah,
anyways.
I know.
But, well, whatever. I can bleep out the title of the movie.
No, it's fine. Go for it.
Essentially, everybody's frozen except for one character, and he's walking up and slapping people, and they're not reacting. And I was like, oh my god, if I was in that situation, I don't know what I would do. I would probably just curl into a ball and cry. Like, I'm the only person who can do anything and move. That's terrifying to me.
You're alone, and it's actually kind of interesting, because while I was watching that, there's been all this backroom stuff about, you could be in the back rooms. It's like a new viral
from Super Eye Patch Wolf. Yeah.
Well, it predates him, obviously.
Yes, but he was the one who introduced me to it.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of it before.
I realized that particular movie kind of touched on that horror of, no, there's something underneath the world in a more interesting way. And that's part of what Hellraiser does, too. This idea that there's kind of more going on in the world, and you're just not aware of it, and it's horrible to find out and walk into it. That sort of behind the scenes of reality sort of thing is, I think, in all three of those. I think Dark City does it the best by far. But
I agree. That was terrifying.
Yeah, and it's not even supposed to be a directly scary film. It's just one of those, oh gosh, that would be a terrible scenario. It's a tense moment. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's anything else to say about Hellraiser.
Well, I was gonna say the house that keeps the Cenobites out. You already said it was super cool. It was. It also had moments where it was super creepy because it has like hidden hallways and whatnot.
Clue doors.
And so yeah, and you're constantly like, is there someone else in the house with them? Like, what is going on? It was really good at heightening the tension when you felt like they were safe in this house because it could keep the Cenobites out. Like, it was good.
I remember thinking that the twist was done well, because it's not a huge twist, but again, massive spoilers. The boyfriend's a bad guy.
Yeah, surprise.
They didn't do what so many a lot of what makes me like this movie is that they just didn't stumble at all the hurdles that every other horror movie stumbles at that they shouldn't. So, for example, there's usually a scene if somebody's a traitor of them obviously being a traitor, and yet nobody figures it out. But no, around the main cast, he was basically a good person until he finally pulls the veil. You do get to the audience knows he's a traitor long beforehand, and the genre savvy will know he's a traitor long before that. Yeah. But they didn't like do any of the characters are stupid for the purpose of the plot scenes, like they managed to set up we want him to be able to talk to the guy he's betraying them with. Well, okay, then no one else is in the room and he's legitimately missing, like there was never a case where they made it like, oh, why did you disappear for 8 hours? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I could be remembering wrong, so correct me if I am wrong. But I feel like there was never a scene where the boyfriend was speaking to them, they turned away, and he did that stupid evil smirk of like, haha,
yeah,
gotcha.
no.
I hate that. Because it's like, there's so many times when I have turned around after saying something to somebody and being like, oh, wait, I forgot this. If that had happened, they would have seen him smirking.
Yeah.
So I always hate when that happens, because I'm like, most people who are evil like that are not idiots. So they know to hide their emotions when there's other people in the room, and they're like, you know, mirrors and windows with reflections. Like,
and again, he's not even like mustache twirling evil.
Oh, yeah, no.
He's not exactly relatable. He's not a good guy, but at the same time, he's not that cartoonish villain.
Yeah.
So again, it's a hurdle that I expect most horror movies to trip over, and they didn't. They made him a very believable, and he does kind of regret what he's doing because he kind of sort of likes the girl and blah 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 blah. He's still doing it, but you know,
she is smart and sacrifices him to save the friend.
Yeah.
Because and you know what? I think the boyfriend had said "I love you," and she hadn't said it back.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she had. I don't know. But she was just like, yeah, no, you can die. Because my thing is like, yeah, boyfriend, maybe you can forgive him, but he betrayed you, and your brother's dead because of him. This friend didn't do squat to you, didn't do squat to your brother. Why would you sacrifice him when you can sacrifice the traitor? Like, that's just my thought of like,
No, yeah.
yeah, no, if I have the choice between someone who I'm ambivalent to and someone who has directly betrayed my feelings and killed my brother, I am absolutely going to save the person I'm ambivalent to every single time.
Yeah.
I suffer no fools here, no traitors.
So yeah, and the off chance you've listened to all this rambling, it's a good horror movie. As far as remakes go, it's hardly the worst. It's maybe not the best, but at least it was, I think, a good attempt.
I definitely liked it more than the Nightmare on Elm Street remake.
Which is funny because I like that one, but
I didn't.
Yeah.
Because
I know
Nightmare on Elm Street is one of my absolute favorite horror movies.
But I still think it's... Oh, well, whatever. Anyways, that's all I got.
Clearly, we need to watch Hellraiser 1 and 2, because you have not seen them in their entirety, and that is unacceptable right now.
Yeah, we'll get there.
We will, eventually. We have a very long backlog to talk through, you guys.
It's been a tough couple of months.
Yeah, it's been a tricky year. Love you, Olga.
And that is the end of Christmas Ornaments 2022 Christmas Cactus. I got 2 hours and 9 minutes of footage. It actually went way faster than I was expecting. Like, really, really quick. I'm actually a little upset because I didn't get to listen to as much of the audiobook as I wanted to. But it's been really good, so that's what matters. David and I are going to go have brunch. I don't think I'm going to be stitching anymore because we're probably going to hang out, so... Sorry, but we're getting there. We're making progress. Like, subscribe, share, comment, all that jazz. And I'll see you guys in the next video.